Oh ho!
Oh, it's that time of year.
Are you married?
I
Funny question, man.
no, I'm married too.
You're married too. Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be one of those weekends where the rain and the holidays and everybody's kind of running around like chickens with their heads cut off right now.
Yeah, people are really stressed out. It's really. This is Paul and Bill, and we're on Health Talk.
Yeah, thanks. Forgot all about that.
And it's Merry
my
Christmas,
merriment.
believe it or not. And this is our Christmas show, and we're going to talk about a lot of things considering your health, and of course all the diseases that are going around right now, and all the traveling that's going on. Some ways to combat that thing, and some of the conditions that really exist because of the holiday season. So. We're glad to be here. This is the Wednesday before Christmas, and Christmas is on Sunday this year. So it's a shortened week for a lot of people, and some people take the whole week after Christmas off. Paul and I aren't quite that lucky.
No.
But I usually have inventory, and but here we are. Our number is 263-5252, 263-5252. If you have any questions. We wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays for whatever way that you normally would say it. So we're going to be talking about Christmas. And
so politically correct
I
on
know.
the show.
You know, I was watching an Irish, there's a show on DirecTV called The Boozer, and he goes all over the world and drinks and tells people what the best drinks are, and I wanted to watch it because he was in Ireland. So I taped it one night because it was on when a time that it wasn't available to me, and he was drinking Irish whiskey and grog and all the stuff that the Europeans drink, and every time they drank they said Salante. And all the time I was in Ireland, I never even heard that. I guess I just did the drinking, but so we can't do that today. It's a show, but we're going to talk about holidays, and one of the things about traveling, of course, is these cold and flu hotspots. And I had kind of printed out where those hotspots are, and as I went through them, I realized that I had been in about 5 of those top ones in the last month. So the top 5 places were Charleston, South Carolina. So I was in South Carolina, San Diego, which I wasn't in, Minneapolis, St. Paul, I was in, the Midwest, Iowa, I was in, Kansas City, Los Angeles. So I ought to be well over the flu by now, but I still have this cough that keeps hanging on. But millions of people, of course, travel nationwide for holidays, and what we don't realize is that we haven't built up a resistance to a lot of it doesn't necessarily have to be the flu. It could just be a cold, but germs are spreading about wherever you go, and you're on elevators, you're on escalators, you're touching things in airports, and in early November, only 2 out of 5 adults and children in the United States had been vaccinated against the flu vaccine. It's about the same as last year. So there's still a few flu shots left. If you haven't got them, you should get them. Last week we talked about why it's important that you get a flu shot and went through some of the scenarios. Just because you got one last year doesn't mean you need one. You think you don't need one this year, and of course you do, because the strains are different. Some people are still afraid of getting the flu from the shot. That's impossible. This is an inactivated vaccine. In fact, we've had to turn some people down for pneumonia shots that had got the flu and got a Zostavax shot or another live vaccine at the same time, because you can only have one live vaccine at a time. So, but the flu vaccine is not a live vaccine. And if you're a senior and you haven't got the second pneumonia shot or even the first pneumonia shot, you need to get those. The immunizations are very, very important as we get older and as we're in our very early stages of life, because our immune system hasn't built up yet. You need to do that. So, if you're taking a holiday trip, it's important that you have a flu vaccination before you go. If you are going to be close to a new pediatric patient under 6 months old, and your grandma and grandpa or aunt and uncle, and seeing the child for the first time, you need to get a whooping cough shot, pertussis. So those are critically important because the baby doesn't have immunity build up for those. And as we've said before, anybody that's pregnant that is having a child needs to get one of those every year. But, you know, when we don't think so much about flying and what it could do to us if we're flying long distances. For example, we flew to Georgia a couple of weeks ago, and it took all day. And if you plan to travel overseas or cross country, make sure that you get up and walk around at least every 2 hours, and try not to sleep more than 4 hours at a time, which is not a problem for me on an airplane. I can't sleep at all.
I can never sleep, yeah.
Even when I travel to the Caribbean or to Tahiti, and it's a 13-hour flight, we usually take off at midnight, and I still don't sleep.
Yeah.
And you, Paul, you fly to where? To Nashville? Where do
We
you
go to Memphis. I haven't been in a few years, but yeah, I've flown to Memphis, and there's usually layover, and I've laid over everywhere from Salt Lake City to Dallas to one time they flew all the way up into Minnesota or Minneapolis, and then down, which I thought was a complete waste.
Well, when I flew to Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, we flew to Seattle first.
Yeah, that's a little out of the way.
Seattle, then to Las Vegas, and then to Atlanta, and then to Brunswick, Georgia. So, but there's so much money to be made by the airlines from not having direct flights.
Yeah.
You go into these cities where they're anchors, and they have headquarters there, and of course they don't do direct flights because of the extra revenue that you can get. So, and if you're a senior or have circulation problems, it's always a good thing to wear compression stockings. They will help prevent clots from forming. You know, I've never had the clots. My wife has, but I haven't. But I've worn compression stockings because I've stood up all my life working behind a counter for 50 years. And they are very uncomfortable, and I know why people don't wear them. But if you're getting any kind of pain for those tendency to prevent those blood clots, they are very helpful. If it's not possible to get up and down and move every couple hours, try to do a little bit of workout while you're sitting down. Extend both legs and move both feet back and forth. Move your knees up to your chest and hold the stretch for at least 15 seconds, and then put both feet on the floor and point them upward. And if you ever sat next to somebody that was doing those exercises, you think
I've never seen that.
You think they're a little weird. We can't afford to fly first class, but we've flown Comfort and Delta because that's the main airline that goes to my board meeting in Wisconsin, and Comfort just gives you an extra legs room.
Yeah.
Costs a little bit more, but nothing like first class or business class. And you can get up and walk around or just stand next to the seat, unless you're on one of those small aircraft where there's not room for two people to walk down the aisle, including the stewardess. So you kind of try to squeeze out some sort of an exercise routine, at least so you can get circulation. This is called a deep vein thrombosis, or DVT. It affects about 2 million Americans a year, and nearly 200,000 of those die, according to the Heart Center. So that in kind of symptoms usually is tenderness and swelling and redness, increased warmth in one of the legs. A physician might suggest that a patient go on blood thinners and simply take an aspirin before doing a long trip. And you wonder why aspirin is essential. If you've been close to people who've had a heart attack or have had cardiac surgery, you know that many times they will tell you to take an aspirin and chew it up, and that will help thin the blood so you don't have a clot. So if you take that as a preventative, a lot of people that have had any kind of cardiac surgery or AFib or something like that will have aspirin, an 81 milligram aspirin, which is a child's aspirin actually. Take it every day just to prevent the possibility of a stroke or a heart attack. So it's one of those kind of situations that you don't want to get into. And as we get into the holiday season, believe it or not, there is such a condition known as holiday heart syndrome, and what you need to know. When I worked at the hospital up at Cedar Lakeside, which was Lakeside Community at the time, 35 years ago, and when I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 20-some years, between Christmas and New Year's, I was called out a lot because I had 4 nursing homes at the same time and the jail. But this holiday heart syndrome was to describe irregular heartbeat rhythms that seem to occur during the holiday seasons. Now, a lot of that is related to heavy alcohol consumption. When they originally described that condition, it was most often seen with patients without underlying heart disease. And that meant there was no symptoms, no high blood pressure, none of that was aware in their conditions at the time. The most common heart rhythm disorder seen with holiday heart is called AFib, and that's when the top part of the heart, the chambers of the heart, which is the atrium, begin to beat in a fast, irregular manner. That can make patients feel rather ill. And I don't know as much ill as it is just you don't feel the same. You know something's going on. So there are a lot of things that we can do to lessen the chance of that happen. And the reason I mentioned the emergency room and Christmas when I was on call all the time is because there was a definite uptrend of people coming into the ER or going into emergency and needing medications before the hospitals had emergency medications that were suffering from holiday heart syndrome. That's not what they called it at the time. They said you could be having a TIA, which is a transient ischemic stroke, or you could have a possibility of a small heart attack. But whatever it was, there was some reason that the blood was not being pumped into the heart the way it should have been. So, and Paul, you and I have talked about this, about Thanksgiving and New Year's. The average American will gain 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And I probably gained 2.5.
My wife and I keep talking about we can't wait for the holidays to be over because there's just too much good stuff to eat, and we're both putting on weight again.
People come in the pharmacy and they bring us cookies and they bring us candy and they bring. We sell Cease candy also, and the sorority who we do that for leaves us boxes of. So every time we go back, I have to go from my office to my bookkeeper's office, and there's always something on the table. And I don't eat candy normally, breads and banana breads and zucchini breads,
yum.
all those things, fruit cakes, and so when they're there, you have a tendency to eat them. And of course, we're all so busy now. When we get off work, we don't have time to go out and exercise. Plus, it's dark, and if you have any kind of a condition such as a broken femur or broken back, I think I look at reasons that I just hurt too much to exercise. So
that's a good one. I'm going to start using that one.
I've got to get that out of my system. So one of the things is to prevent this heart rhythm from happening is between Thanksgiving and New Year's, make sure you eat a healthy breakfast every day and never go to an event starving. Well, I seem to do both of those things, and I still and then this is my problem. Monitor portion sizes.
Yeah.
We had our Christmas party at Lake Event Design and out on South Main on Saturday, and they did a tremendous job of giving us a meal with everything that was very hearty, and of course it was easy to eat that, even though I'd made party mix that afternoon, and I'd eaten a substantial amount of that. But you need to do so responsibly and avoid foods that are covered in creamy sauces, and try not to go back for seconds. And we had so much food, we had people going back for seconds and thirds, and probably none of us should have, but what the heck, that's why I pay for it.
That's why you do it, yeah.
And then limit the amount of alcohol and caffeine. One of my family members got this flu that was going around and got dehydrated from the constant diarrhea, and didn't want to eat or drink because they were afraid it was just going to go through them, and so drank coffee. Well, coffee was a stimulus to get rid of more fluid because of the caffeine, and became dehydrated and had to go to the hospital and get more fluids put in them because they had this vicious cycle of those things going around. So excessive caffeine can precipitate bad heart rhythms, and in addition, caffeine and alcohol can result in dehydration, which is exactly what happened. So, and then you feel like you're having a heart attack, and your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and you don't know what you've done. You've never had high blood pressure before in your life, and it was related to that. So here we have don't overeat, and then be careful about limiting alcohol and caffeine, and then exercise. There's the kicker. It's vital to exercise at least 150 minutes a week, especially during the holiday. You ever take a time that you don't feel like you have time to do that, you wrap presents and you put up Christmas until your back hurts so bad you can't do anything. But that can help alleviate excess stress and burn off extra calories. And if you're like me and you swim every day or be on the treadmill, it's a great calming effect, and will take a lot of stress away. If nothing else, for an hour or a half an hour, you're thinking about something that causes stress to you, and you get it out of your system. And if you don't do that, and you're when these holidays are so stressful and we're working these long hours, it's important to take a few minutes out of every day and simply relax. And a good way is to set aside 10 minutes every day to just have deep breathing. I used to go to a psychologist here by the name of Mark Baker, and he would always, I didn't have any help at the time. I was working opening to closing on call 24 hours a day, and he says, you got to switch from the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight and flight. That's when the adrenaline kicks in, to the parasympathetic nervous system, where serotonin and norepinephrine kick in. And once those breathing exercises start, the ones with the adrenaline, the fight or flight system, kicks over to the parasympathetic nervous system, and all of a sudden your heart rate goes down, your blood pressure goes down, and you're more apt to enjoy the time that you have for the holiday season. So it's a time for family and friends to get together, and Paul and I were just talking before the show. That isn't necessarily a stress-free time. Many times. You haven't gotten together with some of your in-laws and
they're coming.
Your grandkids and of course great-grandkids in my situation. And of course discipline today is much different than discipline was in our days, and our parents, if they're alive, are starting to lose it sometimes, and so we have to be more tolerant. And especially during the holiday period, can last several weeks. Some people come and say, well, we're going to stay for a month, and is that okay? And I just smile and say,
yes,
I'm glad I have an office downstairs. And but all of this can be avoided generally by practicing moderation and continue the same thing we've talked about forever, and that's diet and exercise. If you think you're having an abnormal heart rhythm or symptoms consistent, it's important to seek medical attention immediately. So give these things a shot at it as far as deep breathing, and the chances are on many of these other things that do not overeat, limit alcohol and intake, exercise more. All those are things, that we know we're supposed to do. We're also telling ourselves at Christmas time and at holiday time we deserve a break. And sometimes I get to the point that, because I answer healthcare questions all the time, I don't want to have to think. My wife plays cards a lot, and I don't even want to think to play cards. I just want to enjoy people being around. So it's one of those things that sometimes people with type A personalities have to force themselves into being dormant and letting things not bother them, and taking deep breaths, and go out and smell the roses, only there aren't any roses left because of the freeze. So I had to cover up my lemon trees to make sure I still had lemons, but I'm not sure I got to them in time enough. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to survive a sudden heart attack and a new Schedule I drug that it will kind of amaze you that the Food and Drug Administration has put on this do not take list. Hi, I'm Bill Kearney from Northlake Medical Pharmacy. Recently, I visited Mrs. Goodwin's third grade class at Lakeport Elementary School to answer some of the students' questions about their health. Here's what they had to ask.
What causes a fever?
Fever is a common symptom of most infections. It's usually caused by bacteria or a virus. When your temperature rises, it's your body's response to help the body fight off an infection. Northlake Medical Pharmacy, a good neighbor pharmacy, is offering a Healthy Kids free vitamin program to the kids of Lake County. Any child aged 2 to 12 can receive a free 30-day supply of children's chewable multivitamins every month for a year. Simply sign up your children at either of our 2 locations at 347 Lakeport Boulevard in front of the Bruno's Shop Smart. Call 263-1328 or at 5136 Hill Road East across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital. Call 263-6192. The Healthy Kids free vitamin program at Northlake Medical Pharmacies.
They're good for us.
This may sound like a typical high school basketball game being played on a Friday night in California. In fact, it's a crash course in cooperation and teamwork. It's a test of dedication, determination, and drive. It's character development in action. If you think high school sports are only about competition, think about this. High school sports can play a critical role in a student's overall education. In fact, studies show that students who participate in school sports are more likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in their academic lives. At the same time, playing sports helps teach lessons not covered in the classroom. Lessons like tolerance, respect for the rules, and the importance of supporting your community. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the California Interscholastic Federation and the California State Athletic Directors Association.
Vaccine-preventable infections kill 50,000 American adults each year. That's more than HIV, AIDS, breast cancer, or traffic accidents. I'm Assemblywoman Fiona Ma from California. On behalf of Women in Government, I urge you to talk to your doctor about the vaccines you need from birth through adulthood. You can protect yourself. To learn more about vaccine-preventable diseases and infections, please visit www.womeningovernment.org. That's womeningovernment.org.
Since 1976, Habitat for Humanity worldwide has been building for and helping communities by offering reliable housing for those that need it. You can help. Thousands of homes have been built around the world, and the work is continuing in Lake County. Habitat for Humanity Lake County is looking for volunteers to continue the tradition. If you are enthusiastic, community-minded, and don't mind construction work, then bring your energy, and Habitat for Humanity will provide all the training. Because of people like you, veterans, fire victims, and qualifying families are housed. Be a part of the change that you want to see in your community. Learn more by calling Lori at 994-1100. That's 994-1100. Once again, that's 994-1100 to become a Lake County volunteer for Habitat for Humanity.
All right, we're back.
We're going to take a little detour here. Our number is 263-5252.
Talk about food?
No, we're going to talk about this condition that's going around right now. Paul and I were talking during the break, and people get this nasal congestion and they get this cough in their chest, and they can't breathe, and they cough up this mucus that's chances are the physician won't give you an antibiotic for this because a lot of it's viral. But there are things that you can do, and if it just keeps hanging on, that's kind of the way it does. Even though you've had a flu shot, this isn't flu, it's a virus. But you can take a nasal decongestant to open up your ears and nose, and that has pseudoephedrine in it. You have to buy it from the pharmacy behind the counter. But that will help if you just take one of those a day. Also, if you want to take a nasal spray other than ocean spray. Now, ocean spray is just normal saline, which is salt water, and it works very well. But if you want a chemical that's going to open you up, the Afrin or anything that says it lasts for 12 hours, 8 to 12 hours, has a drug in it called oxymetazoline. And that was the old Afrin spray. And you'll see it on the shelf in a generic version in our pharmacies that's much less expensive. The thing is, you can only use it for 3 days, once in the morning and once in the evening. Otherwise, it works so well, you get a rebound effect from taking that nasal spray. In 3 days, you're fine. After 3 days, you have to stop using it. And then go to the ocean spray or the normal saline. You aren't going to believe it, and even myself, who has this problem with breathing, I know enough to, if I get really congested in my nasal passages don't open up, I spray once or twice in each nostril just at bedtime. And I'll do that for maybe 1 or 2 days, and then I don't have to do it anymore. But every year when these things come around, I have a tendency to abuse them myself. And when I get into the point that I know the more I use it, the more I have to use it, I stop. But this year I'm trying to do better. I'm only 74 years old. I mean, I have a lot of time yet to learn that you can't use these things when you tell everybody else not to. So, and there's also another drug that's called. I told Paul it was Mucomyst, but it's guaifenesin that relieves mucus, and it is taken 1 every 4 hours with a large glass of water. And you buy the mucus relief thing in our pharmacy that will help stop the cough. And when that congestion gets in your chest, it will break up that congestion and let you cough and get that out of there. It's also a cough suppressant, but its main use is as an expectorant to break up that condition in your lungs. So there are temporary things that are on the market that can help you. You just have to learn not to abuse them. The reason you have to sign for a decongestant that has pseudoephedrine in it is because people make crank out of those things, and so we have to monitor. It goes into a national health care initiative where we see everybody that buys that drug and buys it to excess. When the DEA comes in, they can look it up and get the information and go from pharmacy to pharmacy and find out, because it goes into a database. However, we're not going to deal on that right now. We were going to deal on a Schedule 1 drug. And if you're a marijuana user, you know that recreational marijuana has been approved by the state of California. And there's quite an issue on when and how that's going to be made available because of the legal jurisdictions on having permit fees and taxes. But one of the things, if you followed the use of marijuana, cannabidiol hemp oil is used in more and more people that testify on the use of marijuana. They talk about using this oil to help relieve seizures. And just last week, the DEA designated this oil as a Schedule I drug. The announcement published which sets in the Federal magazine has a new code number for marijuana extract. And even though there's the cannabis is no more than between 0.3% and 1%, it is now classified as a Schedule I drug. So the companies selling it have been operating under an assumption that the DEA was going to make it as marijuana is with the legislature, but that can only be done by Congress. The DEA says it's going to comply with the international drug treaties, and it is going to be a Schedule I. So the oil is going to be a Schedule I drug. One thing this article didn't say is if the federal government is still going to consider cannabis per se as a Schedule I. Marijuana has always been a Schedule I once they classified it and has not changed, although states have ratified laws and regulations and propositions that have allowed it to be sold, assuming the federal government was going to back off of it. It looks like they're not going to back off the hemp oil. So just be aware that if you're using that and wherever you're getting it from, even from the internet or wherever, that there's a chance that that will still be labeled as a Class I drug and you will not be able to use it. Our number is 263-5252. If you have any questions about your health, what we're talking about, please be sure and give us a call. We're still talking about the heart. And the reason the heart is so significant is because so many people die of heart attacks and strokes. Alan Thicke, I don't know if you remember him, just passed away this week with a sudden heart attack at age 69. Who was the NBA reporter that just passed away? Wore the fancy clothes, always wore the sports jackets that were. It's something like Nagel. He was, I think, also 65 years old. According to the Center for Disease Control, someone in the United States has a heart attack every 43 seconds. It happens when part of the heart muscle doesn't receive enough blood flow, and the longer it takes to get treatment, the greater the damage to the heart muscle. So if you know someone's having a heart attack, you need to recognize the difference between a heart attack and sudden cardiac arrest. When someone experiences a heart attack, he or she is conscious and might complain of chest pains or other symptoms. When it's sudden cardiac arrest, the heart has unexpectedly stopped beating and blood is no longer pumping through the body. So the person may lose consciousness and appear lifeless. Some victims grasp and shake as if they're having a seizure, but death can occur within minutes. So there are 5 things that you need to do before help arrives. If you think someone is experiencing a heart attack, the first thing is call 911. Even if you relieve this person, whether it's a heart attack or cardiac arrest, the first step is always calling 911. Dispatchers can talk you through the procedures to get that person alive. Ease the strain on the heart. If you've ever noticed anybody that's having, that somebody's treating for a cardiac heart attack, if the person is still conscious and suffering from a heart attack, you need to get them in a comfortable position, half sitting with head and shoulders well supported and knees bent to ease the strain on the heart. You'll many times see somebody loosening the clothing at the neck, chest, and waist. There was an excellent show. It's called Madam Secretary, and there was it's on Sunday nights at 9 o'clock or so, and there was an excellent the chief of staff was having a heart attack and actually had a sudden cardiac arrest, and there was no pulse. And it was in the White House, and they were able to, one of the girls that was asking for a recommendation from him to go to Harvard was there, and she started doing the pumps from now. In the beginning, you try to do 100 pumps in an hour, and then give them a breath, and then do another 100 pumps. And she was able to save his life. Of course, in the White House has a cardiac crew right there.
Right on staff, sure.
Yeah, there was a gurney there within 5 seconds. And in our case, where most of us live, I just, when I was coming to the studio this morning, I saw the chief's truck pull out of the fire department, and then
I saw them all whip
another
by, too.
ambulance, and
Yep.
then a big rig pull out. So in this time of year, we see a lot of those kind of things, and I hope it wasn't a fire, and I hope there wasn't a death. The third thing is, if a person is fully conscious, give them an aspirin, and not a children's aspirin, a 5-grain or 325 milligram aspirin, and have the person chew it slowly so that it dissolves and absorbed into the bloodstream. And you wonder why that's critically important, but just as you put something solid to melt or something to dissolve in water, the more surface area, the more little pieces that are in there, the quicker it dissolves and gets into the bloodstream. So that's why it's important for them to chew it. A lot of people won't have anything around but enteric-coated aspirin. You can still chew that up, and that's a candy coating on the outside. But when it gets into the bloodstream more quickly, when it reaches the stomach, and it helps break down those blood clots, minimizing muscle damage during a heart attack. The biggest thing is for those muscles from the heart not to be deprived of oxygen, and blood carries oxygen to the heart. So when blood isn't going into the heart, the muscle starts atrophying or dying off. So that's why it's important. The next step down the way, I got a little ahead of myself, is to start the chest compressions. You press hard, about 2 inches deep and fast on the center of the chest. I always heard 105. The heart disease website says 100 to 120 minutes per minute. That's a lot of pumping. You need to be counting them as you're going, and it's a very rapid compression. So you press down about 2 inches, and you go 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005 till you get to over 100. And then a lot of places, in airports, and which is not an infrequent place that this happens, doctors' offices, public venues, concerts and things like that, look for an automatic external defibrillator. They have clear instructions and are designed to be used by the public. You attach the pads, and there will be a talking part which will tell you what to do that. Attach the pads as indicated on the machine, and then the machine will talk you through the process. It will only deliver a shock if the patient's condition indicates that it's necessary. So you're not taking any chances here. This is all done electronically, and you leave the machine switched on at all times, and leave the pads attached even after the patient has recovered, because they can go right back into that condition again. So first you call 911. Second, you get the patient in a place where they're more comfortable with their knees bent and half sitting with their head and shoulders supported. Chew the aspirin, perform CPR, and if possible, look for a defibrillator. These defibrillators are getting more and more common. People can use them without having any knowledge of using a defibrillator. I see them in physical therapy. I see them in waiting rooms of hospitals. I see them in convention centers. I see them at public meetings. They're every place. So you can, even if you have one at your home, you can use it. It's just when you're out in the public and you don't know where they are, it's one of those things that you have to think about. And if you get compromised without it, you just keep the CPR going until 911 comes. Not so bad in the city. In rural areas, it's a little bit harder for them to get to. I was, when I broke my femur a year ago Thanksgiving, I had paramedics there within 10 minutes, and I live in a peninsula area outside of Konocti Harbor Inn. But a couple of my neighbors were volunteer firemen who had access to ways to get me out of the pool and get the fire department there quickly and get me to the hospital. So we're pretty lucky in Lake County. We're lucky to have a hospital at both ends of the lake. We're lucky to have very competent people. We have fire departments which are unbelievably efficient, and paramedics that are excellent at what they do. So just because, I hear this all the time, we're leaving because there isn't good health care here. I was on the hospital board for 11 years, and my goal was to make sure that we had good local health care. If we don't have good local health care, or if your condition is such that they can't handle you locally, we have REACH helicopters. It costs you around $50 for your whole family to sign up for REACH for a year's subscription, and anytime you have to fly out, it's $30,000 or $40,000. If you subscribe to REACH, it doesn't cost you anything, and it will. They're located right at Lamson Field in Lakeport, so they will be there. And if you're closer to Ukiah, Cal Air, and sometimes they overlap. They both used to come up here. Now they've got separate districts, but there isn't any reason. You just have to think. When you look at people that are 65 and 69 and have kept themselves in good shape, and they still have heart attacks. Neither one of these individuals that we just talked about were people that were obese. They had decent diets. They exercised. They were athletic in nature. So once that we abuse ourselves and get to be overweight and don't exercise and do those things, the rate of failure goes up considerably. So we need to do whatever we can, as we've talked about before. We're the ones that are having the problem with health care, because health care is kind of deteriorated in this country until we can get some sort of a reorganization. So we have to kind of take care of ourselves. Paul and I talked last week a little bit about why we were talking about this congestion that everybody's going through, and cleaning your ears out. And if you have this condition that we're all talking about, you have fluid in your ears, and you go to a doctor, and the doctor says there isn't any wax buildup in there, but some reason you have fluid. And if you have childhood memories of your mother poking Q-tips into your ears, we have bad news for you. Mothers might not always know best. I know that's they used to say fathers know best. They don't say that anymore, Paul. They just say mothers know best. So
fathers don't count anymore.
I guess not. But what makes them so bad in the first place is Q-tips make matters worse by sticking one of those deep inside the ear, and it actually pushes wax further inside the ear canal. So instead of cleaning it out, the wax gets stuck, and as more wax builds up on top of it, it creates a dangerous blockage or impaction. So roughly half of the population suffers from that, which can lead to all kinds of medical problems, including dizziness and hearing loss. They say don't count on other home remedies like over-the-counter ear cleaning kits, vacuum tools, and peroxide. I've tried them all. especially if the wax isn't there and it's just that fluid draining. Actually, a decongestant helps as much as anything. What's the ultimate solution to ridding your ears of wax? Because normally your ears are designed to work that wax out. And this Dr. Rothstein, who wrote this article, says, your ear canals are designed to drain themselves, just like a conveyor belt that moves earwax from the inside of the ear to the outside of the ear. For the average person, that wax just falls out. But I've seen people with wax hanging out of their ear. I don't know why they don't take it out when it's there, but not only that, some earwax is actually good for you because it's a natural antibiotic, lubricant, and protection against dirt and insects for the eardrum. So leaving it alone can actually help your hearing. Sometimes I wonder about that with my mate, but she's out of town today, so she won't hear this. Some people feel the need to clean their ears whether they're uncomfortable or not, because putting that Q-tip in there actually stimulates the nerve endings inside the ear. In that case, he recommends wrapping a pinky in a washcloth and gently wiping the outside of the ear if you want to get stimulated from the nerves in your ear. But the old wives' tale that never put anything smaller than the elbow in your ear still pans out, so just be careful. I want to remind you about what's available excuse me, on KXBX AM on the internet. All the shows that we do are in pods, and they have a date on them. So if you look in the children's vitamin squares that are, first of all, you go into the website and you will see on the right-hand side a picture of me with Bill Kearney's Health Talk. And you click on that, and you will open up our radio show, and there will be, it seems to me, Paul, like we get our website. Is that right, or does it go right into the pod?
Well, you go to the KXPX AM website, then on the right-hand side, there's you'll see the picture you described to yourself. There's Health Talk. Click here to, I think it says click here to, or it just says click here, and then it goes to another page, and on that back page is where all the audio is, the pods are at.
Right, and they're all dated. It will tell you what date it was, and just so you understand about the children's vitamins that are the cover part of those, we give free vitamins for children from 2 to 12 years old. And all you have to do is come into the pharmacy, fill out an application, or it isn't even an application because you're not going to get denied, and you'll have a card that will show for each child that will give you a free bottle of vitamins every month. And so you sign up, we mark your card for November, you get 3 bottles of vitamins for 3 children. Then December comes, you come in again, we take your card, we mark it again for December, and we do that for every year. So if you're not signed up for that program and you want your kids to have vitamins, and the reason we felt like it was so necessary is because of the fact that we're a very mobile society now. We're on the move all the time. Both parents usually work. If we have time to get home after we got work and make a nice dinner for you, we normally don't. So we do whatever's quick. Many times that's picking up something at our fast food restaurant and bringing it home. And I'm not saying there aren't healthy choices there, but kids don't necessarily like healthy choices, and we've been away from them all day, and we decide that we want something to make them happy. So we buy them tacos, or we buy them burgers, or we buy them fried chicken, or something other than soup and salad. And so it's very difficult for even us as adults to have the right nutrients because we know what we're supposed to have. But to get those for our kids and then come home and cook an entire meal is just not possible in most situations. Even if you're a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom, much of the time you're not thinking about preparing a dinner meal. When I grew up, my mother worked in a factory. My dad was a farmer, but she still came home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she worked for 2 or 3 hours, making a meal as well as going out and helping me milk the cows and take care of the pigs and the chickens and all that sort of thing. That's by the wayside now. We don't have that kind of environment in most cases. Some of you people that live on the farm, but the rural part of America is, in this part of the country, is quite less than it used to be. So instead of raising cattle and pigs and chickens and stuff, we're raising pears and grapes and vineyards, and ag has considerably changed. So that's why we give out the free vitamins. That's why we think it's essential for you as a parent to sign your kids up for that, and we'll be more than happy to give you the free vitamins. We want to remind you we're still doing deliveries to Lakeport, Nice, Lucerne, Upper Lake, Kelseyville, Buckingham, the Rivieras. So, and it's free. So just give us your prescription a day ahead of time. We'll get it to you the next day. And if it's a refill and requires 72 hours, then give us that time to do it. We will be closed on Christmas, but we're going to be open the rest of the time. So don't forget to get your prescriptions refilled. And remember, the end of the year is coming up. Your health care is going to change. Your insurance companies, although they haven't changed as of now, if you're on Medicare D, you had the option to change on by December 7th. That won't kick in until January 1. So when you call us, make sure you let us know that you have a new insurance program after the first of the year. If you haven't got your flu shot, please get it. Don't need an appointment. Don't need a prescription. If you haven't got your pneumonia shot, it's the same thing. So we'd like to remind everybody that we're Northlake Medical Pharmacies with 2 locations for you at 5136 Hill Road East across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital. Call us there at 263-6192. And outside the Bruno Shop Smart at 347 Lakeport Boulevard, call us there at 263-1328. And listen for the Christmas show on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Right, Paul?
You got it. Yep, we're going to be playing Christmas music on KNTI. Bill, I think you sponsored the 6 p.m. hour of Christmas Eve. It'll be running from noon on Christmas Eve through 6 p.m. Christmas night, and that's on KNTI.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, thanks, Bill. Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Ho, 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 ho. We'll see everybody back here again next Wednesday for Health Talk on AM 1270 and 96.5 FM, KXBX, Lakeport.